Hey everybody, this is Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough of the Phillies. It's opening day in the majors, so if you're watching this, thanks for taking time out from actual baseball to watch me and my fantasy baseball. Um, but I've gotten past the draft, just finished it, so I'm going to go over my picks there and let's see how that shaped out. Um, Not a great draft. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I did have an 11th pick, and I got a mix. I think though, it seems like this year I picked up more outfielders than I did any other position. And I'll go over my strategy a little bit when I look at my picks, but I wanted to go ahead and get you up to speed on where we're at, where the league's at right now. First off, I was looking at my goals, and our record is really good. We're not leading the East Division, but since the last playthrough, we've been kind of back and forth. Right now, I'm a half game behind Miami. It's still a pretty close race, but Atlanta fell off a little bit, and New York is still struggling. But our owner goals were way ahead of a couple of them here. Actually, we met one goal because we signed Kane and Smith, and the reach the World Series, we've still got a year to make that. So if I can just keep it up, and we're not quite halfway through the season yet, so I know I've got a lot of season left to play, but if we keep it up, I think my owner might be happy. I might salvage another year out of him. I really would like to get a multi-year contract, um, but I'm not sure that's going to work. But you can see we have had a good run. I think when I left it last, we were in fourth place, had lost, went through like a five or so game losing streak at the end of that last episode. I'm hoping that there's not going to be another jinx. I'm going to play out a few games of this episode, so hopefully I won't have another losing streak. In terms of the standings in the rest of the league, a surprise in the Central in terms of who is now in the mix, and it's a very competitive division this year. You can see four teams Cleveland overtook. Well, they're tied with Kansas City basically right now, but you got four teams there, a game and a half separating them. So that's going to be an interesting race to look at. And just a quick reminder, this is the 2030 season. So if you're just joining, you haven't watched some of my previous playthroughs. This is a sim that I took over in 2017. Started with Out of the Park Baseball 18 with the Phillies, and I've simmed ahead now through I guess that's what 13, 14 seasons that I've been playing here. And right now, the teams who have been strong in this playthrough are still, for the most part, strong. Tampa Bay has probably been the most dominant team in the American League. Milwaukee's been the most dominant team in the National League, and those two teams are really doing good this year. They've got a lot of depth. I think it's Tampa Bay has a lot of pitching depth. Milwaukee has a lot of offensive depth, and that's how they've kind of kept their dynasties going. New York has been up and down this year, but they're a strong team too. They were active last off season before this one, so I guess that was prior to the 2029 season. They were really active in free agency and picked up a guy who won the MVP last year, for instance, and he's one of the best offensive players in the league. So they're trying to buy their way back into a dynasty. In the West, Texas is still going strong. They're kind of the surprise team coming out of the American League right now. And then in the National League, San Francisco's back on top after struggling a little bit last year. San Diego, another team that's been really good in this playthrough, they're just 3 games back right now. The Cubs are having a miserable season. They've already fired their GM and their manager, so they may be looking at a major rebuild coming up in the next few years. In terms of individual performances, Justin Ballinger is just, I'd really be interested in seeing or hearing from some of you guys who've played, probably starting with version 18. Just see how this guy's career developed, because he has been phenomenal in this game. He's 34, almost 35. I thought a couple years ago that he was about to start showing some signs of slipping, but he's coming back this year and just playing even better. His average has been around or now well over 300 for the year. He's on pace for 65 home runs, 130. In his career, he's always been productive, and this year he's just 18 home runs away from 500 for his career. I think he's going to be a good bet to make the Hall of Fame in this playthrough, but he's more than likely on pace for the MVP in the American League. Pitching performances, a couple guys here with 7 wins. Zach Owenby is having a good year in terms of strikeouts. And in the National League, Juan Ledesma, who is a fairly young guy, 28 years old, just a 3-star player, but he's contact rated really high, and he's showing at 362 batting average this year. He's having a definite career year because he's kind of been a little bit of a journeyman through his career, it looks like. Rafael Devers still leading the National League in RBIs, but he's currently tied. But he's having a really good year. His average has slipped off pace from where it was, but he's still very productive this year. He's already reached that 300 home run milestone. I think he did that, but between the last episode and the few sims that I went through, and now he's about 10. He is 10 hits shy of 2,000, so that's his next milestone. Good career for him, though. That was a free agent pickup I made going into the 2029 season. Got him for a really good value, like seven something million dollars. He's signed for another 3 years, I believe, if he meets his vesting options, and I think he's going to this year for sure. Pitching wise, seeing some names that I'm not really familiar with, short of Plyler, who is leading the league in strikeouts once again. Flores from San Francisco, he's been kind of off my radar, but he's 29. He's been in the league for a while. Looks like he's a closer, so that's why he's leading the league in wins, but that's probably not going to hold true for the rest of the year. So for me right now, looking at how my team's doing in pitching, Mike Farr's got 4 wins. Moya is actually leading my team in wins with Urrutia. Urrutia is having a really good year. His stuff rating is really high, but he's got 4 pitches. He came on strong in a September call-up last year, so he's having a good year this year, and that's really good production to get out of that 5th starter. Corey Lon's still doing okay. He's been a little bit shaky at times, but he's on pace for 30-plus saves. The bullpen's doing okay for the most part. I'll look at how we're looking overall in just a minute. And then for my offensive performances, Vanden Heuvel, he slipped a little bit average-wise, but I still like his production, and he's got room to grow. He's going to be, I think, a good player. Kanan Smith he's really stinking it up. I don't know how else to say it. Last year was his worst year offensively. This year is going to top that or be even worse than that. And I wish I had a better option at catcher, but he was really, my owner was adamant that I sign him, and there wasn't much in free agency, and I've tried to make a few trades one-on-one, and nothing comes back for catcher. So it looks like right now catcher is a tough position to get in this league. And he is a fan favorite, so he helps the morale, I'm sure. Elman is currently injured for a few more days, but he's having a good year production-wise, on pace for 37 home runs, and he's mixing time in that outfield. He's platooning with Mast in left and Ochoa in right. They're not playing as well as I'd like to. In terms of the outfield overall, I'm not seeing the production I need from him. Vargas his average has been sub 250 for most of the year. I thought that June was going to be a better month for him, though, so he started out pretty strong. I hope he keeps that up. And then looking at how we are overall. Oh, I didn't want that. I wanted our statistics. Sorry about that. So how we stack up with the rest of the league, we're still struggling in extra inning games. We're 1-5, but we are 9-7 in one run games, and we've been consistent so far. If you look by month, April we were 14-9, 16-12 in May, and we started out 4-2 in June. I hope that keeps up. But it's been a complete turnaround this year. The previous 2 seasons at least, and really for a long time in this playthrough, it's really been my pitching. You know, I've kept a pretty balanced staff, and it's been the pitching that's, if I've had any success, it's been the pitching that's been the cause of it. This year, it's really the offense. We've improved in so many different areas, all the way from batting average, on base and slugging, currently tied for 3rd with runs scored, 3rd in home runs. We haven't been, I can't remember the last time we've been top 10 in home runs, so and 1st in stolen bases. So we're definitely doing good offensively. We've got a good mix going there. Over on the pitching side, though, ERAs are not too bad, but we're giving up a lot of hits. We're giving up a lot of walks, and kind of giving up a lot of home runs. And the defensive efficiency's been down this year. I don't know why, because I've got a pretty solid infield defensively, and I know the outfield outside of Ochoa and Wright is solid. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully, we have been in this playthrough. We usually finish, I would say, top 10 at least in defensive efficiency, sometimes top 5. So that's a surprise to see us kind of slagging a little bit there. But that's an update on how we are, what's happened since the last sim, our episode. Now, looking at the draftees, even though I'm sold on Vandenhoeven as my first baseman of the future, by the time my pick came around, I just thought this guy was the best, had the best potential of any player out there. Will he wind up on my team? Hard to know. His personality class is a little bit sketchy. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. My scout has him at a 3.5 potential. OSA has him at a 3 potential. So it's a good balance, I think, between the two. But he's another potential high power, high discipline first baseman. And I think if he improves a little bit defensively, I think he could be, if not a future first baseman for me, I think he could be someone that I might be able to trade somewhere down the line if he develops okay. And then second pick, I went with Sean Daniels. I think this one was kind of me going on my scout. I just liked the fact that he had 3 potential solid pitches, and his stuff rating is rated really high. And he's only 18, about to be 19. So if he meets the stuff rating there, and curveball and fastball develops the way my scout thinks it will, I think he could probably become a mid-rotation type starter. That's kind of where my scout has him right now. And then I went with another pitcher here. He was probably rated a little bit better at what he was from OSA, but I figured good pick for the bullpen. And then the first outfielder I chose was Amar'e Andres, who is the kind of player I like: speed, contact, and defense. Good personality ratings. Pretty decent overall from both my scout and OSA. I don't like the avoid Ks though. Hopefully he'll develop a little bit better there, but the rest of his ratings look like they could go pretty good. And then last, Jonathan Condrey. Not an outstanding potential, but I like the fact that, you know, he's fairly balanced in his potential ratings, except for maybe the gap power. He's got speed, and he can play a few positions, couple positions right now. And at only 19, he may have room to develop there. So that's how the draft went. And just I probably talked about this in my episode with 18 when I actually went through the draft on an episode. My strategy is basically I pick the best available. I don't pick for need. And then after, say, that 10th round or so, I just kind of mix between pitching and offense. Usually I look at what's dwindling first, if that makes sense. Like if the pitching, if that starts going in, say, 7th, 8th, 9th round, if I see a lot of half stars, 1 stars showing up, and on the other side, on the offense batting side, there's still some 2 and 3 stars left, I'll start looking at pitching first. But typically I'm looking for potential stuff rating for a pitcher. And then on the offense side, I mix it up a little bit, but it's primarily contact. And when I run through those guys, when I've gotten the high potential contacts and stuff rating guys out of the way, and I always look at personality too. You'll see that he can be complacent, you know, he lacks drive or whatever. Those kind of ratings I avoid. But when I get through the stuff and I get through the contact, I may take a look at power on the offense side, but then I just start drafting for speed offensively. And I don't know, you can probably say I haven't been all that successful, but I just feel like in the past, working in previous versions for sure, and I hope to see the same thing here with Out of the Park 19. If they have the speed, sometimes their offense will develop around that. It just seems to be my experience with it, and within reason. I mean, you don't want to get a guy who's just his individual ratings are just guaranteed to tank. But if you've got a guy who your scout thinks might have a max 10 out of a 20 scale contact rating, and he's also got like 16 to 20 speed, and he has a 15 or above steal rating, I would go for that guy, because I think he's gonna be pretty versatile. He's gonna get some play time, because I think the minors, I think he'll get some time, you know, pinch running, defensive replacement if he's got good defensive ratings. So he'll get play time, and I've seen a lot of guys develop from the later rounds who that's how I drafted them. I just basically drafted them on speed, and they came from nowhere and at least made the starting rotation or starting lineup for me. But that's the strategy I wanted to pass along there if you're about to hit your own draft. But what I'm going to do now, we just finished up with the Dodgers. Looks like we're in a West Coast swing here. I'm going to play out a few games and see if we can keep that league going. So we are June 6th. I might play a couple weeks. And let's get started at San Francisco. And I've gotten a personal message already, so looks like I think this is the 3rd pick of the reliever. He's happy. He's going to sign with me. And then Zach Owenby. Somebody wants to trade me Zach Owenby, who's having a tremendous year at Detroit. I'm not even going to touch that. He's a 5-star pitcher. I don't think I'm going to have anything worth giving away to get him. I want to make sure that guy, yeah, he did. He went to my Gulf Coast team. Usually the first 5 picks I take, they go to this rookie league team. So now we're getting ready to play San Francisco. And it's a shutout. So we lose 3-0. Not much offensively going on there, of course. Devers 2 for 4, though. Gowdy did not pitch a bad game. 6 innings, just gave up a run. But he picked up his 3rd loss. Kane gave up a run in the late innings there. Just looking. Kendall Simmons for the Reds. A little bit of an injury there. Franklin Perez, somebody finally picked him up. This guy's been a free agent. He's a 3-star pitcher. He's been a free agent since the season started. I've thought at times of trying to pick him up myself, but I didn't like his injury proneness and didn't like his movement either. But he does have 4 solid pitches. He started out his career with Houston and had a couple good years there. And since then, it's been up and down. Last year wasn't too bad for him in limited play, though. All right, so let's see if we can salvage. Oh, my gosh, we didn't salvage it. I was going to say let's see if we can at least win the series, but big loss, 3-14. Looks like we got a couple home runs from Barge and Ochoa, but Urrutia pitched good, but Austin, the rookie that I called up from AAA this year, he had his worst outing by far. And then Berger right below him, 1 inning, 7 earned runs. Holy cow. I wonder if he's no, as a reliever, he's got a normal hook. So, boy, that was a terrible game. Let me see what they got. Ademan had a great game for him, 5 for 5. James, that big free agent pickup for them, that was just his second start of the year, but he's finally off the DL, so that may help them the rest of the year then. James was off to a great start last year before he got injured. All right, so now we got to see if we can't at least win this final game, and we do, 7-2. That's good. Looks like Vargas is still struggling. Lewis, 2 for 5, pretty good game from him. Mass, Devers. Ochoa, did he have another home run? No, but looked like Devers had a home run. And then Arenthal, 2 for 4, playing in place of Barge there. Good game for him. And Ollis, finally. I took a subscriber, or I guess he's a subscriber, but he left a message on a video about the last one, and he gave me a tip on Ollis. I put him in the starting rotation, but I left his position as a reliever. So he said, why don't you change him to starter? That might be why, because he went through a few games there. You can see he only got that game. Came out because he was injured, but he's only getting 4 innings, 5 innings. I think one game he was only 3. So I put him back to starter, and you can see the last 2 games he's been 6 innings and 7 innings. So thanks for that suggestion. I don't have your name up right now, but appreciate it, because knock on wood, that may have made a difference. But another good game for him, though. So looking at some of the news, another guy signed. I think this was the second guy I signed. All-Star voting is starting, and Devers is getting he's getting some votes in third base. He's second, but he's not too far away from Tatis, who's having a little bit better year. Royce Lewis picking up some votes at shortstop. And that's it. No pitchers this year. And another guy signed. This was the 4th pick, I think. And then Players of the Week, Medina in the American League. Tatis, who we were just talking about in the National League. He's 31 now. He's had a good career for San Diego. He's been with San Diego through the whole playthrough. Wow, 1666. A little bit of an unlucky hit number, but he's probably going to finish with some big numbers for his career if he stays healthy. And then the weekly power rankings were 5th. Wow. We're a half game now out of first still, but if you look at the standings, we won 6 of our last 10. So before that San Francisco series, we were on a little bit of a run there. So now let's see how we do against, I'm hoping this is the Cubs. It is. And Lockyer, and he signed. So all my draft picks are now signed. Nope, take that back. My second pick, he's still holding out a little bit. So we'll see if he eventually signs. I basically gave him his demand. The slot was a whole lot higher, but I went with what the guy was asking for. So playing at Chicago, and we lost. Vargas at least had a good game. Vandenhoeven's starting to struggle a little bit. Lockfeld, another bad game. He is not having anywhere close to the year that he had last year. Brandon Kinsler, a up-and-coming star. He's been a star for a few years with Oakland, but he's on a 20-game hitting streak. And a trade there, but looks like it was probably some minor players. And we lost another one. Holy cow. 6-7. I'm thinking this might be a jinx to play out this way. At least Devers had a good game, but not much else going on. And Farr, 7 earned runs in 5 1/3 innings. I'm not going to give him a quick hook, but I'm at least going to put it a little bit slower there, or quicker there. So that was a big series. We got Milwaukee coming up. We should have been able to handle Chicago, and we finally shut them out 4-0 on that last game. Devers a pretty decent game. Vandenhoeven, a couple walks, but he hasn't had a hit in a while. Well, he's had just 2 hits in the last 5 games. Gowdy, a great game. He just can't pick up a decision, but his ERA is good this year. Hopefully he'll get lucky as the season goes along. So now we're 1.5 games back, and Washington has come up and taken the lead. So, and this is Milwaukee. Ooh. First game, that's awesome. And Devers reaches his 2000th hit. He's on a roll. He's up to 294 batting now. How did we win? Oh, great offense from those first 4 guys. Look at that. Vargas 3 for 5. Lewis 2 for 5. Barr's a great game. His power's dipped a little bit this year, but still having a solid year. But Devers 4 for 4. He's having a great year. And that contract on him is just really pretty generous. His vesting option actually doesn't kick in until next year. So Urrutia picked up the win, but he was kind of shaky. It's his 6th win, though. Puts him on pace for 15. He might be leading the team still in wins. And second game, we win 2-1, but oh no, we lose Kevin Gowdy. Well, let me take a look at the game first. Hero of the game, Mast, was 2 for 3, scored a run. Sanchez, backup catcher, had a pretty good game. Vandenhoeven's still struggling. Alice, well, only 4 2/3 innings, so and I'm not sure why they would have taken him out. He threw 102 pitches though, so that's the danger sometimes with the high strikeout pitcher is he had 8 Ks in those 4 2/3 innings, so he probably threw a lot of pitches. Got tired. Corey Long picked up his 12th save. So now I've got, and Gowdy is not a big pitcher for me, but he was having a pretty solid year. So now what am I going to do? Looks like Sean Barge is now picking up some votes for the All-Star in the National League. Devers still second. Royce picked up a few votes again, but he's still second. All right, so if I look at my staff right now, I could put Moya back in there. That scout thinks he's an emergency starter, but unless there's somebody hanging out there on the waiver wire, and there is Mitch Keller. Who's this guy? Boston's already claimed him though, and I'm pretty sure Boston would have first choice there. He wouldn't have been a bad option though. He's a veteran anyway. Not a stellar career though. At AAA, I don't really have anyone that I'd want to call up to start. So I think it is going to have to be Moya. And Maylock is just, every time I've caught him up, he's looked really bad. I think I'm going to call this guy back up. Although this guy doesn't look too bad either. 3 pitches. But I'm going to go with Cervante. And I'm just going to put Moya back in that 4th spot. Let him middle relief. I won't really have a emergency starter. I could probably, well, I don't know if I want to use him. I might just use Kane as a emergency starter if I need it. All right, so let's see if we can sweep this series in the week on a high note. And we do. So that's great. We're back in first place, half game up on Washington now. Great game from the leadoff there. Vargas, Lewis, another solid game. Mast was good. Sanchez looked pretty good too. Vandenhoeven's still struggling. For the month of June, he is batting .094. But I expected to see a little bit of that from the rookie. Lockfeld picked up his 3rd win. Good game for him. On pace for 7 wins. It's a whole different show from last year. Brandon Kinsler Jr. is the player of the week in the American League, and J.J. Lohman for the Nationals in the National League. And then power rankings, we are 4th. So we're doing pretty good there. Looking at the standings, Tampa Bay still up. Minnesota's now has jumped above. They were in 4th, I think, when we started. So, man, that's going to be a tight race there in that division. And then Oakland now, they're on a 4-game win streak. Texas may have started losing the magic. They've slipped quite a bit. And don't count out Houston either. Milwaukee's still playing pretty tough, although 4-game losing streak, and we just swept them, so that could be good news for Cincinnati and St. Louis. And then San Francisco and San Diego competing there in the West. Bellinger's up to 25 home runs, still hitting well above 300. This dude is, man, he's had a career. And Trevor Clifton at Baltimore, guy's been around quite a bit. He's on pace to have one of his best years, so that would be good for him. And Devers is still leading the National League in RBIs, on pace for 142. His ratings are still solid, so I think he's going to have a pretty decent playthrough here. I think his numbers are going to look good when it's all said and done. But that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate you guys watching and appreciate the subscribers and the comment section and all that interest that you're showing in my playthrough. I will probably come back next episode with an actual game, do one more gameplay video. I really enjoy doing that, and I haven't done it since that last one. So I'll look for a good matchup, and I don't know if I'll play. I might play past the trading deadline. We'll see. But I'd like to get through the season in another couple episodes and see if we can make the playoffs from there. But thanks for watching. Enjoy opening day in the major leagues, and I'll see you next episode.